So, let's continue this. Right, something that really stuck in my mind since yesterday was the need for a priori, well, an axiom when you're doing, when you create an ethical thing, right? Ethical theory or whatever. It has to be based on an axiom, just like maths are based on certain types of axioms. I think what Kant wanted to do was to create with the categorical imperative, right? That he wanted to create one code of ethics to rule them all. I think that was misguided, since it's all based on opinion, right? So there are many different theory perspectives on ethics. Right? You can go through the categorical imperative. You can go through the golden rule. You can go utilitarian way, or right. There are many different ways to go. But from a meta-ethical standpoint, from meta-ethics, or metaphysics, as they call metaphysics of morality, as they call it in this text, it would make sense for all of these theories to be based on pure reason, and then like first principles kind of thinking, that you have that, and then you use empiricism and experience and whatnot to implement these ideas differently depending on context. That's actually interesting. So you can probably create like a list of a priori statements, propositions, like the categorical imperative, and have like a list of those as a list of things that you might want to consider to make it easier for individuals to do ethics, like in their personal life, their worldview on how to think and act about morality. Well, how to think about the world from a moral standpoint, yeah. Right. And we ended off, it must encompass second principles, exactly, yeah. For the provision of such principles, impure though they, like, second principles are more, they are laws and politics and discussions, right? It must, for the provision of such principles, impure though they are, is in fact the very point of metaphysics. It's the very point of ethics, I would say, not the point of metaphysics. The point of metaphysics is to describe reality, and that's not what we're doing here. They use the word interchangeably. It means different things depending on contexts, and it bothers me. Why not say that it's the point of ethics? Or something like that. The purpose, if you're a pragmatist. Right. Oh, I suppose you could say that about metaphysics, right? What the point is about metaphysics as well is to create an understanding, to know how one should act in the world. It's just, well, yeah. If I jump down from a high roof, I will die. If I don't want to die, then I should not do that. That's an understanding of how the world works without ethical considerations, but just pure action, like physical stuff, considerations. Right, as I shall explain, actually I can do this. As I shall explain, taking the metaphysics of morals in this way seriously sheds significant light on the foundation of Kant's ethics. Taking the metaphysics of morals? Ah, right. In this way. Alright. First, as I have already suggested, bringing the second principles into the remit of metaphysics tells us something important and perhaps surprising about how they are to be established. Okay, in particular, it tells us that... a zipper was opened. All right. In particular, it tells us that the way to establish these principles is not, as many have thought, by subjecting maxims to a categorical imperative test, but by providing an anthropocentric specification of generally rational ends. Right. By subjecting the maxims to a categorical imperative test. All right. Yeah, but providing an anthropocentric specification of generally rational ends. I didn't understand that bit. What are we saying here? To establish the principles. Alright, the categorical imperative. Isn't the categorical imperative a maxim in itself?
Oh, it's down there somewhere. Let me take another look.
What is a maxim? Actually, I need to double check that. What is a maxim? Not... Did I misspell that? Maxims. What's the definition? General truth, fundamental principle, or rule of conduct. In this, it kind of feels like it's a rule of conduct, right? Or a fundamental principle of how you think one ought to behave. Well, oh, no. We're talking about my behavior. So my behavior, my principle in how I would decide to act in a given situation. Alright, so I would say that the categorical imperative is in itself a maxim, right? The imperative said only act in a way where you think that should be create a general law or whatever. That's one maxim, that's one rule, rather than test to run on other maxims. Actually, it is a test for other maxims as well, right? If you look at it at a scale, like how abstract. Different levels of abstractions, maybe. Right, but providing an anthropocentric specification of generally rational ends. I did not get that bit. Alright, but let's keep reading anyway. Second, it deepens our understanding of the rationalist character of Kantian ethic, and this is this in two ways. On one hand, it seems to attenuate his rationalism insofar it makes empirical considerations essential aspects of the metaphysical foundations of ethics. Oh, right, yeah, definitely. That makes sense to me, yeah, that empirical considerations become super important from the rational. Saying anything else would be weird. Alright, so... But on the other hand, it seems to accentuate his rationalism insofar that the fact that empirical consideration enter only at the second stage of metaphysics implies that it only certain kinds of empirical considerations are relevant. I mean, sure, yes. Isn't that always the case in everything, that depending on the question, only certain kinds of empirical considerations are relevant? Isn't that always what happens? Right. Since as I have already suggested, these considerations are paradigmatically anthropological. Yeah, they. All right. I understand how they use anthropology now, right? It's empiricism, but you study people, right? You study cultures and people, and that's what anthropology is. It's not right. And empiricism can be both observation and statistical data collection. So you can do both, I guess. So what was this? What was this first point here? Providing an anthropocentric specification of generally rational ends. Yeah, we specify. We specify principles based on anthropocenic specification. Yeah, exactly. We specify what the rules should be based on the rationally defined end, what we're looking for. It is a consequence of this that our a priori concept of rational nature, as it figures in the first stage, in fact constrains our empirical concept of human nature, as it figures in the second. How does it do that? In this way, by illuminating the Kantian conception of metaphysics, we also and thereby illuminate Kantian concepts of ourselves. Wait. Since I've already suggested, these considerations are pragmatically anthropological. Yep. It is a consequence of this that our a priori concepts of a rational nature, as it figures in the first stage, in fact constrains our empirical concepts of human nature. Okay, yeah. That when we create a rational ethics, then it constrains not the concept of human nature, right? It's if we study human nature, that is not a study of ethics. It's not a philosophy of ethics and morality. That's psychology. Psychology just looks at what is. So, but it's something that is considered human nature might be disallowed based on some code of ethics. And I would say that is, it's a fancy way of saying it, but the whole point of ethics, right? Well, not the whole point, but it's almost always about restrictive. That's what laws are about. It's about restricting behaviors. Isn't it? Yeah, restricting behaviors. So those behaviors are part of human nature. Like murder is part of human nature because humans do it, right? We do it, therefore it's part of human nature. But we Right. Illuminating the Kantian conception of metaphysics, we also thereby illuminate the Kantian conception of ourselves. Right. I begin with the groundwork, in which Kant first introduces his concept of ethics. As I've already suggested, it is the resolute rationalism of the groundwork that lends support to the view that metaphysics must be pure. It will be important then to say how I understand what Kant is claiming here, and more importantly, what he is not. I'm with the cat hair all over the place. The key text is the preface. Kant begins the preface with a broad taxonomy of philosophy, endorsing the ancient division of the field into three sciences of physics, ethics, and logic. What is this? I gotta answer. They want stuff. Sorry about that. Alright. Logic, he says. Oh, here we go. Eeyore Explorer says, nice to see you again, Eeyore Explorers. How are you doing today? They say, circa 2002 or 3, I had a debate partner that was interested in the prolegomena of Kant. Oh, nice to see you again. Oh my god. I don't know the prolegomena of Kant. What is that? Let's look at the thing. Eeyore Explorer says our temperature here is down to 69 Fahrenheit. Nice. Alright. And what is this? Oh, you have... right. Oh, right. It's a text written by Kant, but oh man, it's so frustrating to read Kant because he writes horribly. Right. Right. Eeyore Explorers, but AQI is up to 166. AQI? What is that? Air Quality Index? Gotta stand for that. I don't know what it is, though. Eeyore Explorer says we can ignore Kant if you want. I want. Wait, what do you want? This is translated. Oh, right. I mean, I'm not reading this today. I mean, if it's relevant, then it's fun. But I more enjoy reading about Kant than actually reading the Kant itself. Yeah, I like people talking about the Kant. I do like. Air quality index. Yep, nice. 0 to 500. All right. Are destined for use not for pupils but of future teachers. Even the latter should not be expected. Whoops. Terrible for a systematic exposition of... Wait, what is this? This is just information about him. But what is this about? Scholarly man. My object is to persuade all those things of metaphysics worth studying. Necessary to pause a moment and neglecting all that has been done. Whether it all should be possible. Alright, it's the... it's meta-philosophy, so to speak. Philosophy about philosophy. And that's what he's saying, right? That's what he's doing in his preface here. He's making an evaluation of all philosophy and some good stuff, some bad stuff. Eeyore Explorer says that 500 is the most dangerous AQI for our species, allegedly. So it can be a lot of different things. Like you can have temperature and you have, I don't know, I guess different gases or poisons or toxins in the air. Just a concoction of different attributes. Eeyore Explorer says that Edgar Allan Poe Eureka is my fave from him. From whom? From Paul Karras? It's 166 here now. That's kinda... I'm guessing that's kinda high. I don't know what norm is. Like, 0 is the safest. No, you just from Edgar Allan Poe. How did you come to think of Edgar Allan Poe? Alright. What did he do? Taxonomy of philosophy endorsing the ancient division of the field into 3 sciences of physics, ethics, and logic. Yeah, I like that distinction. But It's weird because I feel that this text that I'm reading has not done this distinction himself. Your explorers is often higher in Chinese metropolises. Oh yeah, I've been to Beijing. Good thing to have a mask in Beijing, definitely. For different reasons than people wearing masks now. It's more because of the smog and whatnot. And other cities. It's not only Beijing. There's a lot of big cities. I don't remember the name, but I was in a city that I remember that I was thinking about that. I've never heard of this city before, and it's the one where the Terracotta Army is located, I think. But it was just a small city on the Chinese map, but that city had a higher population than my entire country. Yeah. And that was just a city in China. That's not anything special about the city, I suppose. How many cities can you name? Chinese cities? I mean, Beijing? Hong Kong is not part of... Well, it will be soon enough. And Shanghai? That's pretty much it. Your explorer says, you were sharing someone I don't know talking about Kant. I have much sympathy for Kant's intention, but Gödel found out more. Found out more about what? Your explorer says, who asked you to name cities? My mind. It popped up. It popped up in my mind. So I asked myself. Your explorer says, found out more about how much. Alright. You've lost me. I don't know what you're talking about. Your explorer says, okay, probably would have asked myself too. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Where were I? Let's see. The fields. Logic, he says, is merely a formal philosophy. Insofar it concerns the universal rules of thinking in general without distinction of objects. Why do you have to say merely? Like it's somehow less or something? Yeah. Thinking in general without distinction of objects. That's kind of the point of logic, yeah. You want to... Ultimate generalizability. Isn't that what logic is all about? Yeah, sure. Your explorer says, but not about putting people on the spot anymore. Your explorer says can't follow tonight. Yeah, it feels like you're saying stuff, but you're leaving out, like, you have a thought and then it's stream of consciousness, so it's difficult for me to follow. Do you want me to turn the music off? I can turn the music off. That's fine. There we go. It's gone. It's gone. Super easy. Right. Physics and ethics are material philosophies insofar they are concerned with determinate objects and the laws to which they are subject. The former is which was the former? Physics, yeah. The former is concerned with nature and its laws, and the latter is concerned with freedom, that is, free action and its laws. I disagree with that distinction. Yeah. I mean, physics, and we're talking metaphysics and philosophy here, right? That is concerned with nature and its laws, right? How it works, how the world works. The latter is concerned with freedom. Sure. Freedom to act or freedom not to be acted against. I suppose, yeah, free action. But there are, like... Oh, I suppose, yeah, laws, sure. The thing that I want to point out, I do agree, but the laws of nature and the laws of man are completely different. Right? The laws of man we create in a society by making up rules and writing down texts. The laws of nature, they cannot be broken. And these laws gets broken all the time. If that makes sense. Eeyore Explorer says, I've never understood Kant, so I don't think I can understand free action and other concepts tonight. Free action, it's just... right, ethics, if we take the whole point of ethics, right, it's how we act in regards to each other, right? I say something nice or I say something dumb. No. I say something rude or I say something nice. And we distinguish and say, all right, what could be considered nice and what could be considered rude? Or actions like, should I be free to stab you in the chest with a knife? No, that's one of the laws. That is not a free action. Well, should I be able to go outside and cross the road? Yes, that is a free action. We don't have any laws that stop me from doing that. Depending on your context. I can imagine in some cities you cannot just cross the road willy-nilly, but I can that here outside. I live in a small town, so I have the free action to cross the road whenever I like. Actually a good example. Eeyore Explorer says, stayed up hoping to meet a friend again online, but no signal from them. Oh, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate indeed. Right. Maybe you should get... Oh, it's difficult sometimes. Yeah, sometimes stuff does not end up as we plan them to, or hope them to. That's a good moment to just take a deep breath and just... Oh, maybe another day. Right. Maybe next time you talk to your online friend, you ask them to make an appointment so you don't have to feel that disappointment. I don't know. Your Explorer says, so I'm just trying to make friends because I don't want to be left without any... ... Without any friends? Yeah, the older you get, the more difficult that becomes. But also not necessarily. Yeah, no, I would say that. Social interaction, well, social relationships, for me anyway, becomes more difficult with age. For me, it's easiest to have friends and social relationships in contexts. That makes sense? Rather than just having a pure friend for the sake of having a friend, instead I do something and I have a friend in that doing thing. Like a hobby, like if I play a game, then I can have a friend that I play that game with. And we hang out like that. Your Explorer says 5 days ago she hoped tonight she would be somewhere with a signal. Oh. Signal. Your Explorer says, but my best friend is more complicated. Because there's a border between us. That I can imagine becoming difficult, yeah. Well, one could argue that there are always borders between us. It's just how far the degrees of bordering go. But one could argue that I have one border is my door out there, and then we have distance is a border, and then we have like a different country is a border, or a different state is a border. Many different types of borders. Ear Explorer says, yeah, I have two friends that we've put our lives on the line for each other. Oof. I've never been in that situation. That is... I can't even imagine. I'm guessing that you can probably... I mean, I have friends like that I can go 5 years without saying a word to them, and then we can just pick up that friendship 5 years later without problem. I'm assuming that type of friendship is even stronger than that it doesn't matter. You're always friends, maybe? Your Explorer says, yeah, well, I'm not buying hell is other people. I think some people have that attitude, and I think it is an unhealthy attitude to have, that hell is other people, because that is isolative, right? You become isolated with that attitude. And from the psychology that I've studied, like that's one of the big reasons for mental unwellness is isolation. Isolation is not good for you. Like going out on a cold day without any hot clothes. Yeah, you'll get a cold. It's unhealthy, I think. Your Explorer says, I don't know if I have that type of friendship that you can pick up 5 years later. I haven't put up my life on the line that directly, but we could have our lives ruined for no good reason if the ruling powers wanted. I mean, everybody's more or less in that kind of situation. If you're in luck, you're in a position in a well, not luck. Maybe you're fortunate to be in a place where the powers that be, the ruling powers, don't want to ruin your life. I'm in luck. They don't want to ruin my life. Not very much anyway, just a little bit. Alright. Since logic concerns only the laws of thought as such, it is wholly a priori. Sure, yeah, I agree with that. A priori is, talked about that yesterday. It's a weird concept. But you have to have a border somewhere, and logic would be the best way to put that this is something very a priori. It's just pure reason. Toco Ones is what distro you use. On this computer, I use Arch Linux. I have Nix OS on a laptop as well. Nice to meet you, Toco One, by the way. How are you doing today? What distro do you use? Right. Ear Explorer said, I've never been able to meet anyone and seems permanent or enduring-ish. Yeah, right. Those friends, though, like those friendships are built over multiple years. And they're also built on a way, right? It's friendships where you don't hang out every day. Well, in bursts, maybe you hang out every day. Like I said, right, my friendships are based around things like activities. And then we've done activities together, and then we've figured out, oh, we can do these activities together as well. If that makes sense. Your Explorer says, anyway, more that whatever Kant speak. Yeah, we'll keep going. Your Explorer says to Toko1, great questions. I wish I could live that way. What do you mean, Air Explorer? You use Linux as well, Air Explorers. And what distribution would you be using then? Right. It is wholly a priori. Yeah, pure thought. That's the point anyway. We want it to be generated from pure thought and not from observations. Right. Since physics and ethics concern the objects of thought and their laws, they have both a priori and empirical parts. Agreed. And that's the distinction that the text did between first principles and second principles. No. The first step and the second step. Toka1 says, I don't use Linux, however, thinking of moving just to have more control. That is something that you do get, yeah. And I think that the new Steam dock will push developers to make games more Linux compatible. Yes, right? We have this thing. This is what it looks like right now. The compatibility. These are the reports from Steam, right? Games that work and how well they work. Green is native. Yellow is golden, and that's pretty good. Silver might be problematic, and red just does not work. And Steam pretty much went out and promised that PlayerUnknown Battleground, Apex Legends, Destiny, and Rainbow Six Siege, they will all work before the end of the year. Valve just went out and promised that. I don't know how they did it, because these are all anti-cheat software that just says no to Linux. So the games work, it's just the anti-cheat software just says, oh, you're playing on Linux? Fuck you. That is how it works now. Same with Fortnite. I mean, Fortnite is not here, but same with Fortnite. It probably will work. Oh. I wouldn't, if you're a first-time Linux user, I probably would not recommend going to Arch Linux immediately. I would probably, if you want to try for gaming, I would probably recommend a Linux version called Manjaro. If you want to go for gaming, Manjaro. That is a version. Exactly. Enjoy the simplicity. It's Arch Linux, but it's easier for a new time user. It comes pre-installed with a lot of programs and whatnot. That would be my recommendation. Yeah. Era Explorer, but yeah, the hope is that it's gonna be more Linux compatible. And it's not even that developers gets pushed towards it. It's that Valve themselves makes it work. Makes it work on Linux. They took the responsibility themselves. That is what they've been doing. Era Explorer says, yeah, never hang out in person every day with someone. Always wanted to, but again and again chatted with people every day and tried to visit in person, but either the person I wanted to visit died before I could visit or never wanted to visit. I mean, if you want to have someone to hang out with every day, that would probably be a romantic relationship you would create. I've had those, and I mean, then you hang out every day in a romantic relationship, but that's different from friendships, I would say. And my condolences about the dead friends. Eric Spore says, my best friend, we chatted every day and I've had good connection to be able to chat about 1.5 years now. Nice. Eric Spore says, Team Fortress 2 still number 9. Yeah. And that's native Linux. Yeah, Team Fortress 2. That's Valve games. All the Valve games works on Linux out of the box. Also sad when I give up Unreal Tournament 2004 for Team Fortress 2. Oh. Change can be saddening. Yeah, it can be saddening. If that is not a word, I just created that word. I am the master of language. I don't know. Toka1 says, most of the time the anti-cheat don't even work normally. Oh, wow. Yeah, maybe it doesn't. Your Explorer says Team Fortress 2 never even figured out vehicles. He used Ubuntu for a while. Saddening is a word. Yeah, I used Ubuntu for a while as well. I don't recommend it. Well, if you're the kind of person that likes Apple and iPhone and stuff like that, then I could recommend Ubuntu. If you're my kind of person who likes the minimalist stuff and being in more control and whatever, Ubuntu is fine, but it's a little bit bloated. That is my gripe with Ubuntu. It's a little bit bloated and updates are a little bit slow. Toka1 says, I might try Alpine Linux. I think I've heard good things about Alpine Linux. That's Alpine. I think that's. I've been here. Oh, the security. Lightweight Linux distribution based on Musel, libc, and BusyBox. This is not necessarily for gaming, though. I think you will have. I think this is. I don't know about starting out small and simple. That's similar to ours. Like if you're a beginner at Linux, this might be a big step to take. And I think it will be difficult because of the Musel, libc, and BusyBox. It might become problematic to get games up and running.
The sounds were a real horror show. It's very realistic. And you could even get the heavy breathing and panting of the tall-chopping mount chicks.
But I've considered this one as well, yeah. Where are we at? Here we are. Here Explorer says, last Ubuntu before the time I played Team Fortress 2, so maybe 10 years ago. Oh, that was some time ago, yeah. When did I start using Linux? It must be 4 years ago. I started to become a Linux user. Well, I tried it out earlier, put it on laptops and whatnot, but started using it as my daily driver. Yeah, probably 4 years ago, something like that. Your Explorer says, I don't imagine anyone else have personal encounters with the CIA or NSA. I didn't get the full Clockwork Orange treatment with eye-opening tools or anything. Nice. I have not have any personal interactions with any stuff like that. Well, except for them listening on my phone, I suppose. That's kind of a personal encounter, right? This is kind of personal, right? But enough to consider it a real horror show? Toko1 says I have a background in computer science, so I usually adapt quick enough. Oh, right, yeah. Oh, my. Then definitely quick enough. Yeah, I don't have a background in that. I've become interested in computer science after, and I've been learning a little bit of programming as a hobby, like a little bit of Python and C. Right? I wrote. There is a chatbot working in the chat at the moment. I wrote that myself in Python. That was the only, that's the most complicated thing I've done, and it's not very complicated. Your Explorer says that's a personal violation. Wait, what is a personal violation? Having the phone? Toko1 says programming gets you mad, bitches. I can imagine. Can imagine. I do enjoy it as a hobby. Invading your phone? Oh, yeah. There is a Pine phone. That's the next time I purchase a phone, I'm probably purchasing. Maybe. Hopefully. I need to check that. I think, yeah, it's a Pine phone. It's a phone that runs Linux. Oh. Look at that, Manjaro, the one that I recommended. Sailfish. Oh, it even runs NixOS. I didn't know that. I'm looking forward to that indeed. Your Explorer says, explain programming gets you mad, bitches. Skills to pay the bills? I don't know. Saying that, it is, what's that called? It is an attractive skill to have. That was my understanding about programming gets you mad, bitches. That programming is attractive. Yeah. Toko1 says facts. Yeah, I mean, everything is attractive from everything can be considered attractive by someone, I think. Well, maybe not everything, but a great many things. Actually, just being highly skilled at anything is attractive. That is a fact. Hero explores his safety is nowhere, but yeah, I mean, man, it's dangerous to be alive. I mean, you could die, so maybe stop being alive so you're no longer in any danger of dying. Logic. Toko 1 says good career development. The women love that shit. Oh yeah, stability. Yeah, I think men love that shit as well. Stable partner. Well, not everybody. Right? There are drama queens out there that just likes the hot and cold kind of lifestyle. I am not one of them. Yeah, I like stability. Here Explorer says, I could abuse my knowledge to dominate arbitration barriers. I just can't. Wait. You could, but you can't. I don't know what arbitration barriers mean. Toko1 says, opinion on Graphene OS or Lineage OS for Android. I have not tried any of them yet. I'm kind of lazy and slow moving in these kind of things. I want to try them out. Actually, I don't even know what Graphene is, but Lineage is... wait, I've got a lot of stuff open here. Oh, no. Those are flashed Android, right? I am planning on trying one of them, maybe, if I'm not gonna continue being lazy, which is... I think I'm gonna continue being lazy, Fortunately, yeah. Ear Explorer says, I don't know those or why anyone would care in 2021 about Graphene or Lineage. I mean, I care about them. Look at that. The private and secure mobile OS. Right, Graphene is a fork of Lineage, right? Non-profit open source. I care about open source. I care about these things. You don't know why? I like open source. I like privacy, but it's more the open source. I want open source to grow and be bigger and better. I was super happy about the Steam Deck, right? Because that's a boon to open source. Yeah, just more open source into society. I like that. Ear Explorer says, is laziness always worse than working for the worst forces? Laziness always worse than working for the worst forces. I mean, I have difficulty saying that anything is always worse than something else, because you can always fiddle with the context, right? You can always change it around and say that the context is this. Right? What does the worst mean? Actually, from the language you did use, if it is the worst, then it cannot be worse by nature of grammar. So it could not be worse than working for the worst forces, if working for the worst forces is indeed the worst. But I don't know if there actually is a thing that I would consider to be the worst. Like rhetorically, yeah, but metaphysically, no. ER Explorer says, I like privacy more than open source, but yeah, I can get that. I know a lot of people care more about privacy. I like privacy and security and whatnot, but it's not my main focus. My main focus is just free information. That's what I want. Toko1 says, open source is just better. I don't want Bill Gates looking at my dog pics. Yeah, I mean, when I learned Linux, it took me a while, but when I learned Linux, it's just, from my perspective, it's just a better operating system. It's a better infrastructure of computing. in like every aspect except where is it? Except these red aspects. I mean, except for those, and depending on what you do, right? It can take more time to learn. No, actually, no. When you have learned Linux, you have saved time. It might be a little bit more difficult to learn it, but when you have learned it, Linux still works the same. When people will switch to Windows 11, they have to relearn a lot of stuff. If you're a power user, anyway. Your Explorer says, you can always fiddle with the context, exactly, right? You can do that. Okay, all you said seems like we have the same worries, but you know more about how to maintain yourself. Worries about... I mean, probably. I mean, I worry about... Actually, I try not to worry as much. I think that's why I don't... I like having privacy and stuff like this and do it as a hobby, but I don't worry much anymore. Like, psychologically, it's just like isolation. Worrying too much is not good for your mental health, I don't believe. I think there is a healthy amount of worry. Maybe I should worry a little bit more about my future and whatnot. But yeah, there's a balancing act about how much to worry and how much not to worry, I think. Hero Explorer says, I can tell stories about GTA 5, Team Fortress 2, Rainbow Six. What kind of stories are you talking about? Hero Explorer says, you shouldn't worry. A little bit of worrying is nice. Hero Explorer says, I don't see you doing anything wrong. I'm trying to think here. Am I doing anything wrong? I've been working on not using that word as much, the wrong thing. Because if something doesn't go the way that you're planned, it's still just an opportunity to learn and grow as a person. So, is it possible to do anything wrong? I mean, simple stuff, right? I can do maths wrong. I can drive on the wrong side of the street, but those things I don't do, so don't feel they are relevant. Your Explorer says, yeah, there's some balancing act. Team Fortress 2 was #1 on a server for months back in 2004. That was a long time ago. You're like me, old. No, we're not old. Not yet, anyway. Don't go full Nietzsche on everyone. Oh, man, I like Nietzsche. Some of the bits. It is totally possible for someone to do something horribly wrong. We're not old. Not yet, anyway. Just... the 90s were a long time ago. Right. It is totally possible for someone to do something horribly wrong. Yeah. Oh, like... Actually, that's the thing, though. I would call that a mistake. Not... If something has gone horribly wrong, then someone made a mistake. They didn't do something horribly wrong. Their actions were not horribly wrong. They were just mistaken, or they failed in their thing. Like, crashing a bus, killing, I don't know, 20 people. That something went horribly wrong, but the bus driver didn't do anything wrong. He just made a mistake. Like going to work when he was tired, or... Right? He could have made a mistake. He slapped that bee out of the way and did not focus on the road, right? All of those were mistakes. He didn't do anything wrong necessarily, if that makes sense. Your Explorer says, I love some of Nietzsche's bits. Nice, yeah. Your Explorer says, a mistake has felt horribly wrong to me. I didn't kill 20 people or one person. Yeah. I mean, stuff went horribly wrong. Right? stuff has felt horribly wrong, but that didn't mean that you did anything horribly wrong. You made a mistake, but that was right, that was a learning experience. Right? When everything went horribly wrong, you learned, well, I don't want to do that thing ever again. Right. What time is it? Almost lunchtime. Alright. Where was I? We can probably pause here. We went on a tangent here. It was fun. I had a good time. Hero Explorer says I never wanted to do that in the first place. Nice. Opinion on dialectical materialism. Oh, that sounds interesting. Let's double check what it is. Dialectical, that sounds like... Alright. Dialectical materialism is a philosophy of science, history, and nature developed in Europe based on the writings of Marx and Engels. Actually, I read the Communist Manifesto recently, and holy shit, that was disappointed. So I've got to say, like, my bias is a little bit, I don't like the writings of Marx and Engels. Not the Communist Manifesto, mind you. But that's different, right? This is, like, their sociology and whatnot, I don't have a problem with. It's just that text, the manifesto, was such a disappointment. I was hoping to really like that text, but I didn't. It was sad. Your Explorer says, wow, seems we know more about Hegel. I don't know anything about Hegel. Let's look here. Marxist dialects as a materialist philosophy emphasizes the importance of real-world conditions and the presence of contradictions within things in relation to, but not limited to, class labor and socioeconomic interactions. All right, wait. This in contrast to the idealist Hegelian dialect, which emphasizes the observation that contradictions in material phenomenon should be resolved by analyzing them and synthesizing a solution whilst retaining their essence. Wow, this was abstract. Right. Marx supposed that the most effective solution to the problem caused by said contradiction phenomena was to address and rearrange the system of social organization at the root of the problems. It sounds weird. All right, it's a philosophy of science, history, and nature. But they're talking politics. Right? All right. What was the problem here? What was the essential problem they were talking about? Marxist dialects as a material philosophy emphasizes the importance of real-world conditions and presence of contradictions within things in relation not too limited to class labor and socioeconomic interaction. That I don't quite understand what this is about, so I can't really give a good opinion on it. Emphasizes the observation that contradictions in material phenomenon could be resolved by analyzing them. Yeah, exactly. They could be. This seems like science, right? Contradictions in material phenomenon, they are in the realm of science. So why is class, labor, and socioeconomic interactions? That is what I don't understand. Where is the interaction between the two things? I'm confused. Right. Your Explorer says Marx and Engels were a failure. Hegel was a failure. We are all here probably are sure, but hey, maybe we can talk it out. I mean, they succeeded in writing their papers, I suppose. I mean, they brought... Right? It was a learning experience for humanity. Right? There were new ideas and new ways to implement and think about social interactions. I don't think it was a failure. I mean, sure, well, I suppose there came some good with it and some bad with it. Like all things in history. Some good happened and some bad happened, maybe. Air Explorer says, does it sound weird if I ask that maybe we all err on the side of letting people live longer because we don't know what's going on? I don't think that's the case. I think that's a very emotional thing about letting people, well, forcing people to live longer even, right? We want people to live as long as possible because we don't want to deal with loss. We don't like to grieve, so we prefer not to. We want to keep our loved ones alive for the longest time. I don't think that the reason we don't know what's going on is really relevant to that. Air Explorer says they did succeed in the learning experience for humanity. Yeah, not a failure in that way. Some good, some bad. Yeah. All right, Toko1 says the contradictions he is stating are with the economic system of capitalism and the proposed solutions through synthesizing a solution which is communism from Marx's point of view. All right, so it's not about materialism at all. So my opinion is that it's the name of the thing is dumb. Dialectal is like, that's a dialect, right? That's talking about things, and materialism is, right, the physical reality exists. That's materialism for me. So I just get confused. So that's my opinion. I find it confusing. Let's see. Right. So the contradictions, right, that materialistic, capitalistic, all right. There is an overlap between materialist. We're talking about consumerism here, maybe being a personal materialist that loves to consume and have a lot of stuff. That type of materialism. That's where I was confused. It's like a personal attribute that we try to get all that stuff, and there are contradictions because we kind of fail. There are failures of capitalism, and that's something that Marx and Engels were pretty good at, like pointing out the specific problems with capitalism. Right? And I think that's a good thing that they do that. There are still a lot of problems with capitalism today, right? There is a big disparity, and that's the main thing they're talking about. The lower classes, right? The upper classes have way more stuff than the lower classes. It's difficult to balance it out and create what's the word a communist would use? An equal society, maybe? Yeah, the interactions skew in different directions, and that's contradictory to what the aim of society is. All right. So their focus then, they emphasize the importance of real-world condition, right? They look at this. Look at how people suffer, for example, and then we change what? Right. Hegel then says, observation and contradiction in material phenomena could be resolved by analyzing and synthesizing a solution whilst retaining their essence. Right. Whose essence? Right. Marx supposed the most effective solution to the problem caused by said contradictory phenomena was to address and rearrange the systems of social organization at the root of the problems. I like address and rearrange, but that is not what they argued for. In the Communist Manifesto, they argued for tearing the current system down and replacing it with a new one. I like dialectical materialism if the idea is that we look at, these are the problems, how can we rearrange and address these problems to make society better? From that sense, I suppose that's a good idea. But that seems similar to... All right. That it actually feels very close to the article that we're reading right now. Right? That the difference in the two different attitudes is that one is rational and one is empirical. And I'm for both, right? I don't want pure rationality and I don't want pure empiricism. I want the two to marry and work together to figure out the best ideas. I'm kind of a pragmatist in that way. Oh, wow. Sorry, I'm way behind on the chat. I'm going to try and catch up with that. I got sidetracked on that. All right. Let's see. Air Explorer said, we want to let people live as long as possible. There is a strong force against that notion with millions of dollars. Good point, yeah. And they say, I don't see capitalism or what Marx described either, so no idea what is being made here. Toko says, a very good book to understand is Mao's on Contradiction. Mao's on Contradiction? It's a book. Is there like a short version on contradiction? Right. That is relevant for this contradiction. That's something that I haven't read about, so maybe this is something I should look into. Let me catch up with chat some more. Mao, you mean, but says Air Explorer, but that is an essay against trying to understand anything with contradiction. I understand Mao lived long after that. But some accounts of how villagers were herded to Mao every night. Wait, what? Toko says, yes, Mao made it easy to understand for peasant soldiers in his army. I like that. Right, so a 12-year-old can understand. I like that type of writing. Your Explorer says Zizek didn't seem any respectful either. I haven't even heard that name, Zizek. And your Explorer asked Tokov, what makes you feel, yes, but Mao made it easier to understand peasants? All right. Want to marry? I mean, we've just met. Buy me dinner first. Right. Toko 1 says, I found that Mao is easier to understand more than Marx and Engels with the same Stalin's philosophy. Yeah. Mao's on Contradiction is an essay. Read the whole thing. Nice. Well, not today, but on Contradiction, if we go back here, right, here we go. If we open here, yeah, it's not very long. This is it, right? Yeah, on Contradiction. That's not very long. I can read that, and maybe that is not as disappointing as Marx's Engels were. And is it also about tearing stuff down? Something that I've noted, that I've really gotten the hang of, is that when the rhetorics is about tearing stuff down, I am not impressed. When the rhetorics is about building stuff and making improvements, I am impressed. If that makes sense. So if it is on these contradictions and how to deal with the contradictions, that sounds like something that I would enjoy reading, rather than just telling people they're dumb. And usually when people talk about other people with differences of ideas, it's usually just filled with straw men. It's just straw men. Right. Toko 1 says should be a PDF. All right. Mao was against the logic itself. Oh, that sounds interesting. Criticisms against logic. That is something that would probably be good for me to read, because I am very pro-logic. So reading criticisms against logic can temper my biases if I can learn something new. Right. I try to do that. Like, I'm super positive for universal basic income, for example, and I've been looking for arguments against it, but I don't find any convincing ones. So I'm stuck in that. I know that the way I look at universal basic income, it looks like such a great idea, and I know that probably my view is so skewed that it's not rooted in reality, if that makes sense. So I want to pull myself down to the ground, down to the earth, being more, yeah, if that makes sense. Here Explorer says his doctor reported in his memoirs about Mao having peasant girls, no boys, herded forced to Mao's bed. That does not surprise me. Yeah, he was somewhat of a cult leader, right? When they worship, Like there was no religion involved, right? But ideology, right, took the place of religion. That was post-Nietzschean stuff, right? Pre-Nietzsche, like way before actually like if you go 400 years back or 1,000 years back, most of the stuff that happened were based on religions, right? Understanding of the worlds and ethics and whatnot. And then we replaced that with ideologies, and that it was just the same, just without the mysticism. It's still isms, and they're all terrible, right? If you try to implement an ism and see it as universal truth, you're in for a bad time. Yeah. Let's see. Eric Spar says prolegomena is something my debate partner was so interested in when I was 12 or 13 years old, but I don't want Kant or UBI. Ideologies are religions. Religions are ideologies. I have neither. No, they're not the same. They are very similar, though, right? Ideologies are like religions, but without the mysticism. So I'm lost, says Air Explorers. No. You're not lost. You're in the... That's the future, right? There will be... The thing with ideologies and religions, it is someone outside telling you what to think inside. So you're not lost. There is a place in your mind where there is room for ethics and philosophy. You are just in a situation where you have the responsibility to fill that room with whatever you see fit. So that's not being lost. Your Explorer says, if you have a religion or ideology you want to help me with, let me know. Yeah, I'm stuck with the idea of UBI, right? I think that is too good. And I think I'm stuck in pragmatism. Yeah, I think I'm stuck in pragmatism. I think I'm way too blinded by the ideas of pragmatism in general. Maybe that's just an attitude rather than an ism or ideology. Rex Explorer says, you're saying like I'm in a corner, but I'm not. Yeah, I try not to be in a corner. I try... That's what I try to do. Your Explorer says, what are you worried about? It's just that I have not seen enough arguments against. But what I've seen in my life is that people that become isms, like it doesn't matter what side of the political divide you're on or religious side you're on, as soon as you say that this is truth, I think that you're in trouble. This is the truth of the thing, because then you reject everything that doesn't how to put that. If I think that I understand how the world works, then if you act in accordance with another theory of how the world works, I will look at you and I will say you are wrong, you are evil, you are bad. And I don't want to do that. I don't want people to do that to me, and I don't want to do that to other people. It's all subjective, right? It's all opinions. My opinion is that pragmatism is great, and my opinion is that UBI is a great idea. And how I work as a person is that I like to explore and, yeah, rationally look at the ideas. Your Explorer says, are there places you know about that I can help? I don't know. That's the problem. That's my problem. I don't know, right? I don't know about the good criticisms. I have not seen them yet. Your Explorer says, I'm lucky that both of my parents disagree and open-minded. That sounds great, yeah. Toko1 says, I disagree. I think you can claim an ism but be open to difference, such as the idea of democratic centralism. Right. I'm for all the isms, right? I'm not against isms. Like, I think communism is an idea, right? And I think that idea is very useful. It's when you identify, I am a communist. That would be like saying that that idea is someone, like, it's an outside idea that decides how I look at the world, if that makes sense. So I'm for all these theories, and having them and working them and reading and writing about them. The problem I have is when people say, I am this. Because I think that whole, it leads to a problem, right? That you start thinking about your theory and your worldview as truth, and everybody else then becomes wrong in your mind. Like, everybody who says UBI is bad, in my mind, they are wrong. But that's their opinion, and they cannot be wrong about an opinion. That makes sense? Right. Democratic centralism is a practice in which political decisions reached by voting processes are binding upon all members of the political party. Yeah, I mean, this is a structure of a party. Yeah, and that makes sense, although mainly associated with Leninism, wherein the party's political vanguard, composed of a professional revolutionaries, practice democratic centralism to elect leaders and officers as well to determine policy. I mean, this doesn't feel like an ism in that sense. It doesn't seem like an ideology. This more seems like a way to structure, like it's a way to structure something. So that's not really what I'm talking about. That makes sense? It's not an ideology. It's just a way to structure. Yeah, I guess maybe. Right. Air Explorer says, I don't understand. My parents don't understand. I don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. What don't I want to do? Air Explorer says, I'd love to help people. Good on you, yeah. That's great stuff. I like helping people as well. But I don't run anything like the Federal Reserve. Democratic centralism is a new one to me. Right? I don't feel like any ism wants me. Oh, that's interesting. I don't want to get killed again. Wait, killed again? Like from Lenin or Trotsky or Stalin or Zizek or Foucault. Or I could go on, but I need some sleep. Sorry. No, that's fine. Thanks for hanging out, and sleep well and have a good one, yeah. All right. Then decisively realized that through united action, democratic centralism has also been practiced by social democratic parties. Yeah, exactly. It's a practice. It's part of a series on Leninism, which I don't have read about at all. Eric Sprouse has said, anyone, not me. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff here that I've not read about, like all this political theory. I come from, my background in philosophy is more of a metaphysical one rather than a political, ethical one, right? So all of this stuff is interesting to go through, and I really like this paper as well because it talks about the divides, and it makes me think about the differences of how they work and whatnot. Usually, I think that as a pragmatist, right? Maybe that's how I work. But I see all of these things have good things coming with them. The communism, the capitalism, this democratic centralism, the dialectal materialism, and the Hegelian dialect. right? I see all of them coming with stuff that I think is good and stuff that I think is bad. And I think that all of them are useful and can, like, because I'm a pragmatist, right? These theories can be used to improve upon society. All of these things were created and written for reasons. The communists and the Marxists and the Leninists, they started doing their things for reasons. Yeah, the Maoists, they all started. The capitalists, we all have reasons for our actions. Hero Explorer says those theories created decades of disaster in Germany, Russia, and even more so in China. Partly, but at the same time, China is on their way becoming the next superpower, right? They have had so much growth, right? Germany built their autobahns, which was like there was a lot of horrible shit that happened. I'm not disputing that. But it wasn't all horrible. Your explorers, and by that I mean millions, no, tens of millions of deaths. Yeah, that's horrible shit. And the oppression is horrible shit. But they also, like, it wasn't all bad, right? Everybody didn't die. Some people had a good time. Toko 1 says, hey, I don't really agree. Oh, nice. I like that. Yeah, what do you think, Toko? Right? I'm not even sure that those theories were themselves created decades of disaster in these countries. I don't think it's the theories themselves. I think just isms create that. When you decide that, well, whatever your ideology is, right? This is how the world works. An ideology in my mind is, right? That's, you look at specifically, this is an ideal person. This is how an ideal person is. Everybody who does not fit this ideal, right, in the extreme, if we end up in the extreme, they will have to be gotten rid of one way or another. Right? They need to get re-educated, they need to be exterminated, they need to be like whatever. But you will always have that. That's my problem with ideologies, that you point out that this is what the ideal person should look like, but you will always have people who does not fit the mold. And you will have a problem. Toko 1 says, I just don't see how tens of millions could die without the population dropping within the USSR. Oh, right. But Ear Explorer said like Germany, Russia, and China. And he collectively tens of millions of deaths. Right. So, I think the ideologies are good, but look at the spirit of the ideologies. What's the point? What are we trying to do when we're building the ideologies? I think that is interesting and more useful. Like all the communists, what was the point? What is the point with all these theory and all this politics and all this strife and the revolution and whatnot? It's about lifting up the people who are on the lowest ring of the society, right? The people who has it worst, it's about lifting them up. And I think that is a super worthwhile goal. That's why if someone asks me where my politics lean, it's because of that worthwhile goal. I would lean to the left because of just that reason. Lifting up the people that having it the worst. Because my ethics, like so many other ethics, it's about lessening the amount of suffering in the world. And people who are oppressed and poor, there is where you find the most suffering. That's just how it is. And I want to reduce that amount of suffering. Here Explorer says, by theories, by isms, I meant theories by isms. I don't have an ideology. I don't have an ideal person. I mean, don't you have something you strive to be, though? Right? You have your own personal ideals, right? You can look at other people, but I'm talking about looking at yourself and improving yourself. You like to help people, and you want to improve upon that, right? So you have like a dream or an ideal of how you want to be as a person, right, Air Explorers? Don't everybody have that? Like an idealized version of themselves that they want to strive to be like? Air Explored continued, I don't know what to hope for. Just try to make relationships. Never want to exterminate or worse. Toka 1 says, well, the main book used to document left-wing political deaths would be the Black Book of Communism. The Black Book of Communism is disputed by the authors who made it, saying that one author went rogue and started adding zeros. Yeah. I mean, from a psychological and sociological standpoint, I think I disagree with Aero Explorer's point that it's the theories that cause these things. Right? I think that I can imagine, right? If the left party in Sweden today came to power, I can imagine them like really like pushing for terrible stuff for the fascists, for the right-wingers or the Nazis, right? Pulling for the, maybe not the extermination, because that's outside of the Overton window in Sweden, the realm of discourse. We don't do extermination here at the moment anyway. But there is so much hostility towards the other side of the ism. Just like if the fascists came to power, they would do the same to that, like the polarized thing. So I don't think that either political idea, right? If you have political ideas that are in conflict or in competition with each other, I think the people who identify with these ideas and become like, I am this idea. They see everybody that does not include the idea as enemies. And if animosity, when it becomes as its worst, it becomes extermination of people, right? It becomes a lot of deaths. But it doesn't have to be. I think it's bad even when it leads to hostility. Like all the hostility, I think it's not good for us. It's not good for society to be this hostile. I mean, it's all fine to have debates and let ideas duke it out and see which ones live and die, gets left behind. But when when there's combativeness between two ideas, it doesn't have to be a combat between two people, right? They don't have to start hurting each other just because the ideas don't agree with each other. Toka 1 says, I think isms are heavily dependent on your upbringing. I call myself a Marxist-Leninist because Lenin is the only writer who ever offered a solution to my life and country's problems. Huh. Right, yeah, and people would probably call me a socialist because I grew up in Sweden and my parents voted on the Socialist Party, so that makes a lot of sense. Also, I like the idea of lifting people up, right? But I don't that's not part of my identity. Like, who is MacDread? I don't identify as a socialist. I'm not part of that group. I don't even vote on the Socialist Party. I can imagine doing it. I don't do it, but I can imagine doing that. If that makes sense, Toko 1. That's interesting. I've never met a Marxist-Leninist before. So I'm curious about Leninism, actually, before going to lunch. Leninism. Did I? Oh, I did spell that. That's a good-looking picture. Right, Leninism is a political ideology developed by Russian Marxist revolutionary Vladimir Lenin that proposes the establishment of the dictatorship of the proletariat led by a revolutionary vanguard party as the political prelude to... Yeah, these are more this is way more practical. Right? The communists, it was all about tearing down the bourgeoisie and whatnot. This is practical. This is pragmatic. This is, how do we create this? We create a dictatorship led by the proletariat, which is led by, dictatorship of the proletariat. Is that doable? I don't think that, well, no. Dictatorship of the proletariat is a state of affairs in which the proletariat holds political power. The dictatorship of the proletariat is the intermediate stage between a capitalist economy and a communist economy, whereby... right. I think the problem with dictatorships, there is a problem with dictatorships, and that is that power corrupts. So anytime you try to build a dictatorship, there are problems to deal with. And from what I understood, the Soviets did not deal with that in the best possible way. And that's fine, right? Just like, it's difficult, right? Organizing people in the scale of countries and empires is difficult. So of course people are gonna make mistakes along the way and screw stuff up. That happens. But I think that's a big problem, that power corrupts. It's not even about the people, it's about the station, right? If you have a lot of power, right, there has to be a lot of oversight. Right. Led by a revolutionary vanguard party as the political prelude to the establishment of communism. Toko 1 says, like the area I grew up in is still under an occupying force, and Lenin's work on anti-imperialism changed my life. That's nice. Good stuff. Faded Link 710, hello, says, communism is horrible. Wait, what are we talking about here? That's a very vague statement. Communism is horrible. It's an idea, right? Can there be horrible ideas? Toko 1 says, yes, the dictatorship of the proletariat is what the MLs believe to be next. What is ML? But we also believe that we are currently under the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. Yeah, right. I like democracy. One could argue that you could end up with this. You could end up with that. I know it sounds weird, but democratic dictatorship. I think that's doable. It doesn't sound like it, but you could probably end up with that as a thought experiment. That's something that I would have to have, because any dictatorship that doesn't have, right, anyone in that position of power with all that power does have to answer to somebody. And there has to be a lot of restrictions, right? The best example of a dictatorship I've seen is the Dalai Lama, right? They raise a kid from birth how they are supposed to be as a leader. If they don't behave as they like, that's not an option for the Dalai Lama as that dictator. They have very strict rules that they have to follow, like the Buddhist rules. And I think that is something like what a dictatorship, like the best version of a working dictatorship, something like that. Faded Link 710, Leninism, communism, same shit. Yeah, right. Like Leninism is explicitly made, they try to establish communism. That is what they're trying to do. Faded Link says, lol, even the wiki you're in says Leninism leads to communism. Oh, that's the point of Leninism, right? It's the point of Leninism. So what is horrible about this? All right, it's a philosophical, social, political, economic ideology and movement whose ultimate goal it is the establishment of a communist society. All right, what is a communist society? That's something that I haven't really understood what a communist society is. Toko One says, well, of course, that's the philosophy we're talking about. Yeah, we're talking about communism, right? Faded Link 710 says, I think you have a real problem getting people to be behind this. Communism oppresses religion. Does it necessarily? Right. In Marxist thought, a communist society or the communist system is the type of society and economic system postulated to emerge from technological advancements. Oh, it is a technological thing. In the productive forces, presenting the ultimate goal of political ideology of communism. A communist society is characterized by common ownership of the means of productions. All right. And this, I know, we've talked about this before. And the means of production. I don't like that term. I don't like that. I kind of reject the ownership of the means of production. Because that means owning people. And I don't want to see a society where people are owned. I don't think that's a good idea. And that is both communist and capitalist philosophy depend on the ownership of the means of production. And I'm like, I want to restructure society, not to have a society where we own people. But that's just a pure emotional reaction from my point. I don't have any philosophical argument. It's just like, I don't like the idea of owning people. And that is where this leads. In the extreme, the means of production. Well, that is partly people. Partly stuff, partly people, partly ways of production, like knowledge. Knowledge is means of production, right? And I'm okay with owning stuff. I like stuff ownership. Like, I like to own my computer. That's fine. I like to own my home. That's fine. Owning information or knowledge, I don't see how that makes sense. Like, I'm a free and open source nerd. I want the information to be free. I like Wikipedia is my favorite site on the interwebs. Right? Free access to information. So I don't want anyone to own information like that. And again, owning people, I'm not happy about that. Faded Link 710 says, I think the Uyghurs would disagree with you, lol. Wait, oh, sorry. Toko1 first said, he isn't. It's important to debate theories to have a complete understanding. Yeah, I agree. It's important to, like, that's where we're talking about differently, right? That's what I think the mistake is, Faded Link 710. I'm talking about ideas, right? These are philosophical and political ideas. And they are not horrible, any of them. I think all of them have good things coming. But you're talking about actual implementations where people are trying to implement communism. And I would probably agree with you thus far that there has been a lot of problems with people implementing communist society, but that's not because of communists, because it's the same in a capitalist society. There's a lot of problems in a capitalist society as well. That's more about implementing or structuring a society. There are a lot of problems and difficulties with that has a lot of problems. These ideas, like communism and capitalism and all the political ideas you can think of. They are just people thinking about how to solve these problems. And all these solutions comes with problems of their own, right? Faded Link 710 says, under communism, you would share your computer, lol. Nope, that's actually a straw man. I read actually the Communist Manifesto. What they care about is private ownership. They don't want to ruin personal ownership. They want my understanding of communism. I might be wrong. But the whole point, right? It's a technological thing, technological advances. So it is, they just want that everybody should own a personal... No, it's not even about that. It's just about the production, right? It's about the factories. It's about owning the factories and the machines in the factories. Your personal property, I don't think communism say anything against. I think that's a straw man, that the communists want me to share my computer. I might be mistaken though. And actually, what I think, there are probably communist theories that some think that I should share my computers and others think that I should not. I'm actually convinced about that. So it's maybe not a straw man, it's just different flavors of communism, maybe. But I like having my own computer. Faded Link 710 says you pay for it, but share it. Yeah, but it's more than that. Probably limit the food you eat, how much money you can have. Limit the food you eat. I mean, I've read a lot about communism recently, but they didn't talk about limiting how much people eat. Like, I didn't see that in any of the theories. I can imagine that happening in practice, right? If there is not enough food to go around, then you have rations. But that happens in any society. That's not specifically for communist society. Right? I've seen that on TV, on films about the Second World War. In Britain, they had rations. Everybody had rations. Well, maybe not the bourgeoisie, but like most of the people were living on rations. But that happens. That's not right. That's a failure of producing enough food for everybody and to prevent starvation. That's just a necessity in, again, structuring a society. That's not based on any political ideology, I don't think. I do think that a communist would, like Faded Link say, that they would restrict how much money you can have. That I can imagine, yeah. That there is a restriction of how much money, like... If we're saying that there is a limited amount of money and they want the money to go around to everybody, well, money is such an abstract idea anyway, so it becomes weird. Toko 1 says, having money in a communist society is not communist because there is no money. I haven't seen that. Is there no money in Toko 1? That feels like a dumb idea to me, just at the basis of it, right? How do you do trade without money? Money, like money in itself, not necessarily the monetary system we have now, but right, having a piece of paper or a piece of information or a number that represent the value of stuff, and then you can trade that thing for actual stuff. That is a great way of organizing and distributing stuff. So just getting rid of money. Organizing people is difficult. And I think money is actually a great invention for organizing people. Even though the current monetary system have some flaws, but it's not right. Money is an abstract idea, and we can change how that money system works in many different ways. For example, oh, sorry, I'm way behind on the chat now. Right, but think like Right? You could replace the monetary system with cryptocurrency. Like, that's a completely different way of dealing with the money thing. Right. Sham Glint. Nice to meet you, Sham Glint. Sorry, I'm gonna try and catch up here. That's a good point about the technology that a lot of people miss. Yeah, I've missed that about that communist is its focus on technology. That makes more sense to me now. Capitalism is how to deal with a base state, like two people in a field, while communism is specifically in response to capitalism. Yeah, it is. Well, it's a response to capitalism and technological advancement. Faded Link 710, from what I know about communism, it is complete slavery. You can see all those slaves, workers in China and concentration camps. I mean, Nazi Germany was not communist. America has a rich history of slavery, and that was not communism. So I don't know how you get from here to there, right? I actually, as soon as you talk about the means of production and ownership of that, you could argue slavery. But that makes capitalism slavery as well, Faded Link. Right? That makes any current system that is built about the ownership of means of production become slavery from that argument, I think. Right, Sham Glint says, so when people discuss the two different ideas, there's a whole different set of underlying premises. They're not just two alternate things the way a lot of people discuss them. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. That's a reason why I don't like isms, right? Because it's kind of narrowing stuff. I like discussing specific political ideas or specific political questions, or just this is an idea. It's not the opposite of. It is a response to, but not an opposite of, if that makes sense. All right, Toko1 said China is capitalist, though. Yeah, they call themselves capitalists, so your argument goes against capitalism, not communism. Yeah, I would say both. The slavery thing. Link says they call themselves communists. They have the Communist Party. Have you been living under a rock? That's rude. There's no need to be rude and go to personal attacks like that, Faded Link. Since we're on opposites, since there's a lot of differences of opinions now, I would prefer if we could keep a civil tongue, right? There's nothing right or wrong. This is all opinions, and nothing makes my opinion better than your opinions. We all have them. Just like they're like assholes. We all have opinions. And I think we could be civil about having different opinions, because it's okay. It's okay. And it's okay to be emotional about it as well, because we all get emotional about our opinions. And that's definitely fine. All right, they call themselves communists. Toko1 says, no, they do not. Isn't the party called the Communist Party? All right, no, they do not, and I don't... if you actually read anything that comes out of China, they propose to meet socialism by 2050. Maybe you're under the rock. All right, again, Toko. Can we please not do the under the rock thing? All right. Faded Link says communism in general sounds good to people who don't want to work and be freeloaders. Yeah, I don't want to work. Right? Like, that's my understanding of how humanity works. The whole idea, like, every invention, well, let's say I'm just gonna pull a number out of my ass here and say that 90% of all inventions, all technological stuff that we've created, could be seen as their sole purpose was to reduce the amount of work people have to do, right? We replace work with technology, right? I don't sow the seed, I sit on a machine, right? I don't mow the lawn, I have a machine running around mowing the lawn for me. That's how we work as a species. We want to be freeloaders. We don't want to do all that stuff. Faded Links jumped in here. I don't think you deserve to be paid as much as a doctor. You don't work as hard. Yeah, credit where credit is due. I agree with that, Faded Link. The more effort you spend, the more rewarded you should be. I totally agree with that, Faded Link. Yeah. if you do a lot of work, then yeah, get reward. Right, back to where was I? Freeloaders maybe pick up a janitor job and get paid the same as a doctor. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think that the value proposition we have today is a bit broken. I think that a lot of people do not get paid their value, right? Some people sit around on their ass all day and get paid a bunch, right? There's people, if you're a billionaire, you get paid just for owning money. And I think that's freeloading as well, right? A different type of freeloading. They get paid way more, like they get more money in a month that I will see in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years. And we're doing the same job, me and the billionaire, right? I think that's a little bit unfair. That's just a hypothetical, but you get my point. I think that people cleaning toilets should be paid way more than they are. Janitors, for example. Like, because you can evaluate how useful something is to society. And having a clean society, not spreading disease all around, is quite important, isn't it? Cham Glint says, I think they meant they're capitalists, they just call themselves communist. Like how the Democratic People's of Republic of Korea is not. All right. But the goal of the Communist Party is communism. Maybe? That's my understanding of China anyway. I haven't read up on what happened in China. There's a lot of terrible stuff. Faded Link said, do I need to link pages on what the CCP lol? Wait, Nazi Germany was socialist. Was it though? I thought they were fascist. Right. Toko says, in October 2017, the CPC celebrated the 19th Congress, a quinquennial meeting at which the national policy for the next 5-year period is generally set out. On this occasion, the Congress took on an even greater than usual significance with the announcement of the start of a new era and the steps needed to make it possible by 2050. Right, Sham Glint said the first people the Nazis targeted were socialists. You do not know what you're talking about. Lol, National Socialist Party of Germany is Nazis. Wait. Yeah, but they were fascist. All right. Toka 1 says, that's exactly the point. You call yourself something and not to be the term privatization came from Nazi Germany, which was heavily capitalist. All right, it's rhetorics. That's all what it is. They use fancy words. There are in history we have a lot of politicians that call themselves something, but they were not that thing because of fancy rhetorics. That's kind of rude. All right, the Democratic Republic of the Congo is democratic, says Shamglind. I have no idea about that. Faded Link says 710 says, you and Toko love to call people who call themselves a term and take it away from them, lol. Actually, that's a very good point. Right? If they... Right, with the Nazis we have the benefit of hindsight, right? The victor defines the definitions. And since Nazi Germany, we have decided that they were not socialist. But at that time, they probably were socialist and could be considered socialist because they were the victorious party. So in Nazi Germany, they were socialist. But today we'll look at them as fascist. That's very interesting. But that kind of implies that today China is communist. And anyone like the Republic of Congo is democratic. And... it's just their form of democracy, like the, where was it? The Democratic Peoples of the Republic of Korea. Right? From the perspective of Korea, it is a democracy, right? From their point of view. It's just different. The structure is different. Like there are many different type of democracy, right? You can have direct democracy, you can have representative democracy, you can have dictatorial democracy, where the dictator says that, oh, I'm doing all the stuff that the people want me to do, like in Korea. And he is claiming that he's doing what the people wants him to do. And, right, from the look of it, there is a lot of cult-like worship of him. Right? So maybe that is the case on paper. That's very interesting. That's a good point, Faded Link. Right. China calls themselves communists. Actually, it doesn't have to be that they are communists. It can be that they are striving towards communism. Right? The Communist Party strives for communism. They don't necessarily say that they have a communist society. Subtle but important difference, I think. Right. And it celebrates it, and it's their video evidence communist in America reaction. That is not their... Wait. China calls themselves communists, proclaims it, and celebrates it, and there is video evidence. Yeah, of course they are. Like they call it, that's the goal, right? Communist in America reaction, they're not communists, but we love China. What do you mean? Right. That's something that America, right? They are not trying to get to communism. I don't think that's typical of USA. Sam Glint says, you can look at something and determine whether the label applies to it is accurate or no. Yeah, you can, but that's from your perspective, right? That's from your interpretation of the label. They obviously have a different interpretation of said label. So it becomes a breeding ground for misunderstandings and hostility, because China say, we have the Communist Party. Well, no, let's not take that example. Korea says, we are a democracy. And that is the belief in North Korea. But then we come from Sweden and we say, no, that is not what a democracy looks like. A democracy looks like this. And then we say that our way of applying that label of democracy is the only way to do it. Right? The first democracy, Greek democracy, we would not call that a democracy today, even though it was accurate at the time. So, when arguing with a North Korean, because I argue with North Koreans every day, don't you? When arguing with them, it's better to go from there. Like, when you argue with someone, it's best to go from their definition of the word, right? If you have one definition and they have another definition, there will be no conversation, there will be no debate, there will be no there will be no working, because there is an inherent misunderstanding in communication where, right, apples and pears. This does not taste like an apple. And then I'm holding a pear. Right? We're not going to be successful in that thing. Faded links as well, we can agree on that. Oh, the doctor thing, I'm trying to catch up. I'm still way behind on the chat, I'm sorry. Cham Glint says, I agree that people should be paid based on the work they do. The problem is that that's not the way capitalism distributes wealth. Right? And now you're making a grand statement that capitalism does not distribute wealth that way. I'd say that the current systems are not very good at doing that, and we can make improvements on the current systems to redistribute, like change where the wealth distribution happens. There's many different ways to value something, right? And I mean, I would say that Sweden is a capitalist society, right? And USA is a capitalist society, right? And China is a capitalist society. We're all having capitalist structures, right? But they're different. They all value stuff differently. Right? You get different amount of pay for a different amount of work depending on where you live, in what structure you live. So capitalism doesn't necessarily, right? There are some similar problems in all the capitalist societies. Usually, the problem I have, something that I don't like, is consumerism. I think consumerism this is an attitude, yeah. Consumerism is a social and economic order that encourages the acquisition of goods and services in ever-increasing amounts. I think this leads to a lot of problems. That's usually goes hand in hand with capitalism, but it doesn't have to go hand in hand with capitalism, I don't think. Theoretically, it doesn't have to. It has done that a lot, but it doesn't have to. I think this leads to... This is addictive behavior, right? And addictive behavior can be toxic. All right. Faded Link says, yeah, I understand. To be honest, I could be wrong, but from my understanding, the Nazis birthed from the socialists in Germany, right? They had elections in Germany, right? I'm thinking they calling themselves the Social Party, and all the people in Germany voted on them. So in Germany, they were the face of socialism, since that was the name and people voted on them. That's interesting. Sham Glint says, when we talk about how much someone makes, what we really mean is the quality of the life that they can live. I can agree to that. Even I would want to make some changes, maybe. The question of what should wages be changes drastically if we decouple wages from work from the ability for someone to have water, food, shelter, etc. Yeah, like, I'm a big fucking fan of universal basic income. I'm a big fucking fan of that. Because I don't think that evaluating work should be based on your capacity to get hands of water, food, shelter, etc. I think we have the capability over time, right? It's gonna take time to restructure society because that's a big change. It's a big thing to build. But I would prefer a society where no one had ever to worry about water, food, shelter. Right? That would be great, wouldn't it? A society where that is not a worry for anyone. Isn't that a worthwhile goal to have, no matter your political ideology? That seems like a future to strive for. All right, Shamglin continued. Like Cider commented on, all of this stuff is just ideas that we have to try and impose on reality. Yeah, and it's just an idea that you have to engage in toil in order to live. I don't think in 100 years, even in 200 years, maybe in 1,000 years, but the idea that jobs will disappear, I don't see that anytime soon, right? The fully automated society, I don't see that happening anytime soon. So it's an interesting idea, but it's so long term. So I like to focus on the more short term goals, like universal basic income, for example. Fiddling says, yeah, I kind of see what you're saying, and that was some time ago. Sorry, so I don't know what that was referring to. Toka says, first they came for the communists. It's a very good poem written by a former survivor of Nazi Germany. Oh. I'm still trying to catch up with chat. I'll open it up. Is it long? I kind of feel like I've heard that before. All right. Yeah, it's pretty short. All right, let's read that. Just take a break from the chat. I'm sorry. I'll catch up with you soon. First they came for the communists. First they came for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the Catholics, and I didn't speak up because I was a Protestant. Then they came for me, and by that time there was no one left to speak up for me. Yeah, that is a great poem. Yeah, I've read that before. Yeah. And I like speaking up for like, I'm not on this list, but I would be. Yeah. There are people on this list that Right. There are people that were on this list but didn't make the poem for whatever reason. And I would be considered on this list. They would come for me. Here somewhere, I think. No, yeah, here. Then they came for me. I would probably be in this list. Yeah. Right. Where were we? All right. Fitted Link says, yeah, very interesting. We wouldn't. Is there North Koreans on the internet? They have their own internet. And they are running Linux. Yeah, North Korea, they have their own Linux version. Nice. Nodona says, hi, I'm new. What's this stream about? This stream is all about just not letting me go to lunch. We're talking about the different labels of political structures, right? My argument is that even today we would say that Nazi Germany was not socialist, but in Nazi Germany the name was the Socialist Party, right? So in Nazi Germany they were socialist. So you always have to look at language in context. I think that is what we're talking about. Faded Link asks Nodrunner, how are you a mod if you're new, lol? Nodrunner says, wow, way to call me out. How can Nodrunner be new and be a mod? Right. Sham Glint says, editing puns into obscure Wikipedia pages and seeing how many we can get through before we get caught. Nice. Very nice. Well, alright. I read your comment and saw your mod badge and I was confused, lol. Stuff is are weird. Toko says Red Star OS best distro. That's the Linux indeed. Nodrunner says, I'm a strong advocate for factorioism. We need to distribute humans on alien planets across the universe to create their own fully automated factories. Sham Glint says Temple OS for life. Oh, isn't Temple OS dead already, Sham Glint? Right, factorioism. If that's not a thing, it should be. Factorioism. You just made up that word. So you are now the founder of factorioism, Nodrunner. That's a completely new ideology. I think it's a variation. Well, it's similar to the fully automated space communism, but different. Everybody, it's like fully automated space communism, but it's not communism because it's objectivism, because everyone has to do the work themselves. And we separate all human beings. We can't have them interact with other people, so it's isolationist as well. Maybe it's some Hindu philosophy where all the people shall be what is it called? Hermits. Yeah. It's a future where we do the objectivist work, right? You make your own work, you create your own food and your own factories. But at the same time, at the downtime, you sit and it's a meditative practice, just watching the automated factory work. And during that meditation, you seek spiritual enlightenment. That is how you're the founder, and I'm just spitballing ideas here. So don't let me decide for you, since it's your idea. Nodrunner says, it's a mod I made for real life. Nice. Sham Glint says, drugs are mods for real life, if you think about it. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. You modify perspective, you change the graphics and whatnot. Toko 1 says that Posadism is the best political ideology. I've never seen that. I have other things that I was supposed to look at, but just passed on. Wait, Rational Wiki? What is this? This is not Wikipedia. Here we go. 4th International Positists. All right. Let's go to my favorite webpage. Posadist is a Trotskyist international. Don't know what that is. It was founded in 1962 by Posadas, who had been the leader of the Latin America Bureau of the Fourth International in the 1950s, and the Fourth International section in Argentina. Between the split from the International Secretariat, the Fourth International in 1962, and Posadas Des in 1981. Wait, this doesn't look like the thing. Well, let's look at this instead. This looks like positivism. It's a tendency within Trotskyism that follows the beliefs. Oh, it is the same. Positivists are organized in a number of national political parties and internationally as the Positivists Fourth. Oh, it is the same. It is this. Right, what are their beliefs then? Positivists develop a strain of communism. All right, it's more communism, eh? That included several fringe ideas which brought them into conflict with more mainstream left-wing groups. Positivism attempts to introduce elements of I don't know what Trotskyism. I don't know what ufology is. Oh man, arguing that only communism can allow the development of interplanetary travel. Wow. Well, that's just wrong, but okay. They concluded that visiting aliens from other planets must live in highly advanced communist society and are bound to help Earth-based communists with bringing about world revolution. All right, this is a meme. Yeah, this is a meme. Right. A political ideology does not develop interplanetary travel. Right? It can speed it up or slow it down, but that's not what happens. Engineering and science is when there will be interplanetary travel, it will be in spite of the political structures of the different societies. Right? It's not because of, it's in spite of. That makes sense? Yeah. Toko 1 says, no, it's serious. Jay Posadas was legit mad. Yeah, that's right, when he made it, but he was serious. Yeah, of course. He was serious, and there are people who believe this, just like there are people who believe that the world is flat. But for the rest of us mortals, it's just a meme, right? Like, I suppose you have a point. It is rude of me to just look at them and just see them as a meme and not take them seriously. But sometimes I am rude, I suppose. That's part of life. You can't please everybody. There we go. Oh. Nodron says, what if I told you that the Earth isn't actually round, but more of an oval-shaped and bigger around the equator? I call it the fat Earth theory. Right. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And also, if you fiddle around with mathematics and fiddle around with the axioms, you could make an argument for the flat Earth because you can make it look flat, like a plane, in some fancy mathematics. I'm not a mathematician, but I know it's doable. I had a reliable source tell me so. Right, Graphene OS, full text. Lego Gemina. All right, this was recommended. It's kind of long though. Maybe I'll keep it open for now. What is this? Final Fantasy stuff. More Final Fantasy stuff. I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy recently. Oh man, a lot of it. I even played off stream. Yeah, I have lunch, I go to sleep, and then I wake up and play some Final Fantasy. That's been my days. Right. Oh, the song recommendation. I got this yesterday. I'll spread it around, the song recommendation, since it was right there. If you like guitars and slappy bass and drums, it's a little bit metal-y. No, it's more rock. It's more rock. Actually, have a taste of 5 seconds. So it's experimental music. No singing, it's just experimental guitars and bass and drums. Experimental rock. If that's not a genre, it is now. All right, I caught up with chat. It happens from time to time where I lose track. All right, but it is lunchtime, an hour and 15 minutes ago, I guess. So we'll keep reading tomorrow. So thanks for all the new people that I haven't seen before that talked about politics with me. I like talking about politics. And also, I mean, there was a little bit of rudeness, but we managed to keep it friendly enough, right? There was a little bit of rudeness, but I don't think anyone's feelings got hurt. So I think that was a good job from us when we had so difference in opinions. That's what I like to see, yeah. Definitely, that made me happy. People having completely different political ideas, but still having a conversation. Really like, those are my favorite conversations, because those are conversations when you can learn. All right, but yeah. Faded Link 710 says, yeah, definitely a good convo. Have a good one. Thank you, Faded Link. And yeah, the same to you indeed. Jamglint says, my political beliefs are just that everyone should have the ability to take safe, comfortable poo. Take a safe, comfortable poo? I like that. I definitely like that. We've been talking about, what's they called? Prime axioms of political beliefs. That's one interesting way to look at it, yeah. Safe, comfortable poo. If you can do that, you have a successful society, I suppose. It's a low bar, but it's a first bar to start off from. I like that, Jamlet. All right, let's continue. That would necessarily require safe private shelter, water for flushing and washing hands, healthy food to promote good digestion, healthcare to investigate any changes in consistency, and so on. I call it politics. Nice. And I'm working on a book. All right, that is some great stuff. Politics, that is the greatest. It's like, it's a meme, but it's like a joke, but it's also serious. Right? It's a joke you can take seriously. I love it. Just like factorioism can also be taken seriously, even though we're nowhere near the technological development to achieve factorioism. Yeah. Nowhere near. Shamglin says, oh, I was joking about the work, but maybe I'll try developing it. Lol. The book? Yeah, the book. Yeah, bullet. It can be an essay, right? Yeah, it can be an essay. It's just all about that one pun. About the politics. Right? And you can make a statement with it. Yeah. I would love to read that essay if you decide to write it. You know, that's one of the things I do, right? I read essays and I give armchair philosophy hot takes on the stuff that I read. I enjoy doing that stuff. All right, but that is it. So thanks for hanging out. It is lunchtime, and yeah, have a good one. Cheers.